parents' adopted daughter. Their perfect darling girl drove drunk and killed a man. She cried, shaking, telling everyone how terrified she was. My brother, without a single second of hesitation, pushed me out to take the fall. My fiancé, a high-profile defense attorney, even committed perjury to seal my fate, pointing his finger at me in open court. 3 years of living hell followed. In that prison, I was tormented daily. They broke me physically and mentally, even shattering my right hand. The constant agonizing abuse eventually manifested as terminal stomach cancer. In May 33, keep your head down out there. Don't let me see you back here. When I was released, I didn't go back to Chicago. Instead, I changed my name, fled to a quiet, foggy coastal town in Oregon, and took a job as a cemetery caretaker. I even bought myself a burial plot. Plot 7. Until one dreary April morning, under a steady drizzle, a figure under a black umbrella stopped in front of my desk. The owner of Plot 7. Does anyone ever come to visit her? My left hand holding the registration pen froze. Hearing that voice again made me feel as if I were looking back across a lifetime. Without looking up, I kept my voice entirely flat. She has no family. Nathan froze. Then he let out a bitter, disbelieving laugh. Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? Do you even have a heart? I finally looked up after all these years. He was still immaculate in his custom-tailored coat, still the golden boy of the Chicago press. And I was a ghost of myself, hollowed out by the sickness. I watched his eyes grow red, but I felt only a cold amusement. What did Isabel do this time, I asked. Whose crime do you need me to pay for now, Nathan? A fleeting, ugly guilt flickered in Nathan's eyes. Isabel's health is fragile. You did a few years for her. Is that really something you can't get over? His words were just as sharp and dismissive as they had been 3 years ago when he practically shoved me into the back of a police cruiser. Isabel is too delicate for prison, Lena. You're her sister. Is it really that hard to do this for her? I pulled my lips into a dry mimicry of a smile. No, I can't get over it. He stared at me, completely stunned. Stop acting out. Come back to Chicago with me. He grabbed my wrist, dragging me out of the caretaker's booth. Let go of me. I struggled, but my lungs burned, and I couldn't draw enough air to fight him. Nathan stopped. He finally took me in, really looking at the state of my body. What is wrong with you? The panic in his eyes was almost comical. If you actually care, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady, then give me back my life. Tell the truth. Clear my name publicly. Do you want to destroy Isabel's entire life? He spat back instantly. Of course, even now, as a celebrated music critic with millions of followers, he wouldn't write the story that mattered. He wouldn't write the truth for his own sister. If he knew my right hand was ruined, he'd probably find a way to justify it. After all, Isabel was a pianist, too. Every time I won a competition before the crash, she'd lock herself in her room and cry until they all blamed me. Then, why are you here? My voice trembled. It was just 3 years. It didn't ruin you, Nathan sighed, exasperated. I can support you for the rest of your life. Stop being so ungrateful. He forced me into his car. Where are you staying? I whispered the address. The car pulled up to a dilapidated apartment complex on the edge of town. Nathan followed me up the stairs, his pace slowing as the peeling wallpaper and smell of damp took over. Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, passed by and gave me a warm smile. Early day, Lena. Then her eyes drifted to Nathan, scanning his expensive suit. Before I could reply, Nathan grabbed my arm roughly. You changed your name. He pressed right over the deep old aches in my arm, and I gasped, but he didn't notice. He only tightened his grip. Who gave you permission to change your name? Hey, let go of her. Mrs. Patterson stepped in, pushing him away. The dam broke. I completely lost control. Does it have anything to do with you? I screamed, my voice cracking raw. You see how I live now? Just leave me alone, please. I am begging you. Nathan's hand hung frozen in the air. Fine, fine. I guess we raised an ungrateful snake after all. I didn't breathe until the sound of his heavy footsteps faded. I reached down to help Mrs. Patterson. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Patterson. Are you okay? I'm fine, dear, she said softly, patting my shoulder. She saw the terror in my eyes, but she didn't cry. She just whispered, "Take care of yourself," and headed inside. Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto the threadbare sofa. My body wouldn't stop shaking. Memories rushed back, suffocating me. Look at her, thought you liked driving drunk. Come on, drink the toilet water. Crawl like a dog, and maybe we'll believe you didn't kill that guy. So, what if you're a rich girl? Your own brother left you in here to rot in prison. The humiliation was a daily routine. They made me kneel for scraps. They tried to force me to compose music for them to sell. When I couldn't, they held me down and snapped my hand. Later, I started throwing up blood. I begged to see Nathan. First, he came, but then he started calling me a liar, accusing me of trying to manipulate him. Eventually, he stopped coming altogether, leaving a message through a guard. Your brother says he has eyes in here. He'll visit when you stop acting. On the day of my release, I squinted against the blinding sun. I didn't get medical help. I didn't go back to Chicago. I just wanted to live out whatever days I had left in quiet obscurity. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, then headed back to the cemetery. After submitting my resignation, I sat on a stone bench, clutching the folded medical diagnosis in my pocket. 2 weeks ago, I had collapsed in the registration booth. When I woke up, the clinic doctor was holding my hand, crying. That was how I found out I had less than a month left. The rain poured harder now. Suddenly, a warm hand wrapped around my wrist, pulling me up roughly. Nathan said you were hiding here. I didn't believe him disappearing without a word. Did you forget we have an engagement? I looked up into the dark, stormy eyes of Derek. Don't you think you're being incredibly selfish? Selfish. When he and Isabel slept in my bed on my birthday, making me the laughingstock of Chicago's elite. Did he think about being selfish? My eyes dropped to his ring finger. A platinum band matching Isabel's. They've been sleeping together for 5 years. Nausea hit me like a physical blow. I shoved him away, leaning over a trash can, retching violently. Derek frowned, stepping forward to pat my back, but I flinched away from his touch. Are you pregnant with some bastard's kid? A sound like a slap. I struck his cheek with everything I had left, my body trembling with rage. You are disgusting, Derek. I turned to walk away, but he caught up, dragging me toward his sleek sedan and locking the doors. Let me out. Nathan is already at your apartment, Derek said, staring onto the road. Aren't you going home? The words drained the last of my strength. I looked at him, hollowed out. Is hurting me really that fun for you? Derek's brow furrowed. Don't talk like that. Once we're back in Chicago, we'll go ahead with the wedding. Then, as if remembering a minor detail, he added, though legally we won't be married. Isabel and I, we already registered. I let out a soft, humorless laugh, turning my face to the window. I wish you both a long life. May you have many children. The car stopped back at my bleak apartment complex. Isabel came with us. I'm going to the airport to pick her up, Derek said. I didn't reply. I just got out. When I pushed open my door, Nathan was sitting on my sofa, staring blankly at my old music composition notebooks. You used to live for this, he said, looking up with a confused, hollow expression. Why did you stop composing? He looked around the peeling walls, his voice suddenly thick. I won't hold the name change against you, but Lena, how have you been living like this? For a second, I thought I saw a rim of red around his eyes. I walked over and calmly took the notebook from his hands. You don't have to worry. I will never compete with Isabel for a performance slot again. Just let me go, please. Nathan stood up, grabbing my shoulders, his eyes bloodshot. You vanished for a year without a single word. Who is hurting whom here? What do you mean you can't compose anymore? What happened to your hand? I pulled away from his grip. Stop acting, Nathan. My voice was barely a whisper. When they broke my hand in that cell, the guard called you. I heard the entire conversation. His words from that night had carved themselves into my skull. A fracture, forget it. Lena is too arrogant. Always showing off her awards in front of Isabel. She needs to learn some humility. Send the prison doctor tomorrow. You knew, Nathan stammered, his face losing color. No, the prison doctor told me it was just a minor sprain from a slip. What do you mean they broke it? Nathan, sweetie, a sweet, soft voice called out from the doorway. Isabel stood there holding a thick folder. She glided in and wrapped her arm around Nathan's. I personally went and questioned everyone who worked at the facility. Back then, they all said Lena just sprained her wrist. Nobody laid a finger on her. Look, I have their signed statements right here. Stop worrying so much about her. The doubt in Nathan's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a complicated defensive irritation as he looked at me. Your hand, how did it really happen? It was always like this. It didn't matter how much I bled. A few sweet words from Isabel, and the truth was erased. I tucked my notebook away. My heart a flat line. Please leave. Suddenly, Isabel thrust a gleaming smartphone into my face. Lena, everyone back home has been so worried about you. Say hi to the stream. I looked at the screen. The live viewer count was over 100,000. Panic, cold, old, and sharp, paralyzed me. 3 years ago, the courtroom was filled with the same flashing lights. The same voyeuristic eyes believing the lies screaming in my head. Get it away from me. I slapped the phone out of her hand, stumbling back until my spine hit the freezing wall, gasping for air. Nathan's face softened with a flicker of genuine alarm. Lena. Do you really hate me that much? I'll leave, Isabel sniffed, her eyes welling with theatrical tears. Just leave me alone, I screamed, drowning her out. Please, all of you. My hand was ruined. My career was dead. I was dying. Why won't they just let me die in peace? Lena, we looked for you for a year. How can you be so cruel? Isabel wept. Nathan's expression hardened into anger again. Isabel has done nothing but worry about you. And this is how you treat her. He barked more questions at me, but my brain shut down. I pulled my knees to my chest, curling into a ball on the floor, blocking them out. Please, just let me go. Finally, the heavy wooden door slammed shut. Silence filled the room. I sat on the cold floor for hours. When my hands stopped shaking, I texted my landlord that I was leaving. Then I opened my browser and scheduled an appointment at an assisted dying clinic in Switzerland. If living was just a slow torture, I'd rather choose my own exit. At 5 a.m., my phone rang. It was the cemetery office. Is this Miss Wells about Plot 7? We've had to transfer it to another buyer. We're moving your reservation to the communal plot on the East Ridge. I froze. I paid for that plot in full a year ago. You have no right to sell it. The clerk let out a cynical sneer. The new buyer offered $80,000 cash. Look, if you want it back, pay us $100,000. You've held that plot for a year. If you had actually died, we wouldn't have sold it, but you're still walking around. It's a waste of prime real estate. The line went dead. A cold sweat broke across my forehead. I grabbed my coat and hailed a cab. That grave was the only thing I had left my quiet corner of the earth. When I arrived, the rain was pouring. I saw Isabel standing near the edge of Plot 7. She was directing 2 workers to dig a hole right next to where my headstone had been. In her hands, she held a small potted sapling, a young cherry tree with delicate pink buds just beginning to open. What are you doing? I demanded, stepping out of the cab. Isabel turned a sickeningly sweet smile on her face. A feng shui master told me this exact spot would be perfect for a memorial tree. I'm planting a cherry blossom tree here in honor of my late pet bird, Sunny. During my brief 3 months with the family, that bird had bitten me dozens of times. The worst time it drew blood from my ear. When I cried to Nathan, he just held the bird, telling me, "Animals have intuition. Lena, Sonny wouldn't bite you without a reason. You must have done something to provoke him." I stared at Isabel, forcing my voice to remain low. "I bought this plot a year ago. It's mine. Take your tree and leave." "Oh, please," Isabel scoffed, stepping closer, her voice dropping to a vicious whisper. "Lena, whatever I want, I get. I know you're dying. In fact, I made sure those girls in prison took excellent care of you." A loud ringing filled my ears. My hands clenched. Then I smiled. A cold, empty smile. "You will burn for this." I grabbed the potted sapling and yanked it out of the soil. The roots tore free from the earth, scattering wet black dirt across Isabel's pristine white coat. I threw the young tree onto the ground and stomped on it, snapping the slender trunk in half. The pink buds scattered like torn confetti. "I went to prison for you. Why do you hate me this much?" Isabel shrieked, dropping to her knees in the mud, pretending to cradle the broken tree. "Lena, you can hit me, but how could you do this to Sonny's memory?" "Apologize to her." Nathan's voice cut through the rain behind me. My tears finally spilled over, hot and bitter. "I have stage 4 stomach cancer. I have weeks left to live." What? Nathan gasped. "It's okay, Nathan. I'll just plant another tree," Isabel interrupted, pulling a folded sheet of paper from her pocket. The familiar copper taste of blood rising from my stomach. Isabel didn't even flinch as my palm struck her cheek. The sharp crack echoed across the cemetery. She stumbled back, her eyes widening in orchestrated shock before she deliberately threw herself onto the broken sapling. "How could you?" Isabel shrieked, her voice soaring into that pitch-perfect, pitiful tremor. She clutched the snapped trunk, crying over it like a grieving mother. "He was just an innocent bird. You hate me, fine." But Sonny apologized to her. Nathan's voice roared behind me. He didn't check on me. He didn't notice the way I was bent, nearly double my left arm wrapped tightly around my ribs. He lunged forward, his heavy hands grabbing my shoulders, spinning me around with enough force to make my head swim. "Look at what you've become," Nathan snarled, his immaculate face contorted in disgust. "You hit your own sister. You destroy a memorial tree for her dead pet. Is this what prison made of you?" Nathan, my stomach. The words were barely a rasp caught in the back of my throat. "Don't try to play the victim," Nathan cut me off, his grip tightening. "Stage 4 cancer? Are you serious, Lena? Do you think I'm stupid?" Isabel pulled herself up from the mud, weeping softly as she slipped a folded white document from her coat pocket. "Nathan, don't be too hard on her. She's desperate." But when she was talking earlier, I got suspicious. I called my friend at the local health clinic. I had them fax over her check-in record. She handed the paper to Nathan. "She doesn't have cancer." "Nathan," Isabel sobbed, wiping a streak of fake mud from her cheek. "It was just a severe gastric ulcer from poor diet and stress. She forged or exaggerated it to make you feel guilty." Nathan scanned the paper, his eyes flashing with a cold, terrifying fury. The last lingering thread of doubt in his expression snapped. He threw the paper into my face. "You disgust me," Nathan whispered, his voice dangerously low. "You lied about having a terminal illness just to draw blood. You're sick, Lena. But not in your body. In your soul." I looked at the paper on the ground. It was a crude, altered summary sheet. A forgery. It didn't matter that my real diagnosis was sitting in my apartment drawer, signed by an oncology specialist. It didn't matter. It never mattered. I looked at Nathan. I looked into the eyes of the boy who used to build snowmen with me in our back garden. The brother who used to promise he would protect me from the dark. Suddenly, the violent nausea caught up to me. I couldn't hold it back anymore. I fell to my knees right beside the broken sapling. I gagged, and a massive jet of dark oxidized blood spurted from my mouth, splattering, staining the white hem of Isabel's coat and the front of Nathan's boots. The iron stench filled the rainy air. Isabel let out a real, unscripted scream of revulsion, jumping back. Gross, what is that? Nathan froze. His eyes dropped to his boots, then to the dark pool between my knees, and finally to my face. My lips were painted deep crimson. My skin was pale as paper. My pupils dilated with agony. Nathan's voice cracked. The fury in his voice vanished, replaced by an unsettling, hollow confusion. What is that? Why are you vomiting blood? I wiped my mouth with the back of my ruined right hand. An ulcer, I whispered, my voice light, almost mocking. Just an ulcer, Nathan. Don't worry, it's just poor diet. I forced myself to stand. Every muscle in my torso felt as though it were being ripped apart by hot hooks. I didn't look at Isabel, who was staring at her stained coat with genuine disgust. I didn't look at Nathan, whose face had completely drained of color. Plot 7 is yours, I said softly, looking at the empty hole where my headstone used to be. Plant your tree here. Let Sunny rest here. It's fitting. Lena, wait. Nathan took a step forward, his hand extending hesitantly. Lena, you need to go to a hospital right now. You don't touch me, I said. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't angry. It was a flat, absolute boundary, a wall built of cold iron. I turned my back on them and walked out of the cemetery. I didn't look back when I heard Nathan call my name again, his voice sounding thinner, lost in the noise of the pouring rain. When I returned to my apartment, Mrs. Patterson was sitting on the bottom step. When she saw me drenched pale with dried blood crusting the corners of my mouth, she rushed forward. Oh, sweet child, what happened to you? I'm okay, Mrs. Patterson, I murmured, leaning into her warmth for just a second. I'm just leaving a little earlier than planned. Leaving where? Zurich, I said softly. I went upstairs, packed my single small suitcase. I took out my savings and left it on Mrs. Patterson's table inside. A small envelope along with a note, thanking her for being the only person in 3 years who had offered me a warm smile. At 11 p.m., I boarded a long-distance bus to JFK. As the bus pulled away, I leaned my head against the cold glass window. My phone vibrated with dozens of missed calls from Nathan and texts from Derek. Nathan, where are you? Lena, pick up the phone. Nathan, I went to the clinic in town. The doctor said he never spoke to Isabel. Lena, what did you vomit? Answer me. Derek, stop acting like a child. Lena, Isabel is crying her eyes out. You ruined her bird's memorial tree. Come back to Chicago so we can settle this like adults. I pulled out the SIM card, opened the small window slit, and let it fly out into the dark night highway. Silence descended. In Chicago, Nathan sat in his corner office staring at the stain on his leather boots. He had tried to clean them 3 times, but he could still see the faint dark rim. He knew what black blood meant. It meant internal bleeding. Nathan, honey. Isabel walked into his office without knocking, holding 2 cups of iced latte. She looked bright, radiant, and completely unbothered. I talked to the venue manager, Isabel said, leaning down to place a kiss on his cheek. They can reschedule the engagement party for next Saturday. Nathan didn't look at her. His eyes remained fixed on his desk screen, where a video of my prison release was playing on a loop. Isabel, Nathan said, his voice flat. Where did you get that medical report yesterday? Isabel's smile froze for a fraction of a second. I told you, Nathan, I called the clinic in Oregon. A nurse faxed it over. I called that clinic this morning, Nathan said, slowly turning his chair to face her. The head physician answered. He told me they don't have a fax machine. He also told me that 2 weeks ago, Lena collapsed and was sent straight to the Portland Oncology Center. Isabel's fingers tightened slightly around her coffee cup. Well, maybe I spoke to a different clinic. You handed me a printed document with a clinic's logo, Isabel. How did you get a printed document from a phone call? Why are you cross-examining me? Isabel's eyes instantly filled with tears. I was just trying to protect you. She's been manipulating you since we were kids. She won those awards because she composed them, Isabel. Nathan said. The statement hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. For 26 years, Nathan had operated under a single, unshakable axiom. Isabel is frail, sweet, and honest. Lena is strong, arrogant, and selfish. It was the rule their late adoptive parents had established. When the fatal crash happened 3 years ago, Isabel had come home covered in blood, sobbing that she was terrified. Derek, who was already secretly sleeping with Isabel, had stepped in. Lena can handle a few years. And Nathan had helped push me out the door. He had written the editorial pieces that framed me as a cold, unrepentant heiress. "Nathan, what's wrong with you?" Isabel whispered, stepping back. "Are you taking her side now?" Nathan stood up. He didn't answer her. He picked up his coat and walked straight out. He drove to the Massachusetts State Women's Correctional Facility and demanded an emergency meeting with the former assistant warden, a man named Henderson. In a quiet diner, Nathan slid an envelope filled with cash across the table. "I want the truth about inmate 4092 Lena Wells." Henderson sighed, rubbing his weathered face. "Mr. Zane, I told your family's representative 3 years ago. We kept her under control." "What do you mean, kept her under control?" Nathan leaned in. "Her hand. How was it broken?" Henderson took a sip of dark coffee. "You were the one who signed off on the special oversight protocol. Your lawyer, Mr. Derek Vance, came in person every month. He brought the monthly payments. He specifically requested that she not be allowed to use musical materials. He said it was crucial for her rehabilitation that her arrogance be broken." Nathan felt as though someone had poured liquid nitrogen directly into his veins. And her hand. 16 months into her sentence, a woman named Big Trish got into an altercation with her. Trish took a heavy wooden bench leg and flattened the girl's right hand against the concrete floor, broke 5 metacarpals, and shattered the wrist joint. Nathan stared at him, his mouth open. "The prison nurse called you that night. She told you the girl's hand was crushed and she needed immediate transport or she'd lose permanent function." "I was told," Nathan's voice was a ragged whisper. "I was told she slipped in the shower." "Who told you that?" Henderson asked. Nathan remembered. Derek had taken the call. Derek had walked back and said, "The warden says Lena fell in the shower and sprained her hand. She's throwing a tantrum. I told him to give her an ice pack." Nathan lowered his head into his hands. "And her stomach," Nathan sobbed. "Did she? Was she sick?" Henderson's face hardened. "She was throwing up every meal for 6 months before her release. She lost 40 pounds. She begged to see a specialist. But Mr. Vance had placed a strict medical hold on her file." Henderson stood up. "She wasn't a bad kid. She never complained after her hand was ruined. She just stopped speaking entirely. She sat in her cell, holding her dead right hand with her left staring at the wall for 18 months. You guys really did a number on her." Henderson walked out. Nathan sat alone in the booth. Switzerland in late April was crisp, quiet, and blindingly white. The clinic, tucked away in a serene village overlooking Lake Zurich, looked like a private resort surrounded by manicured green lawns and distant snow-capped alpine peaks. I sat on the balcony of my room on the 3rd floor, wrapped in a thick wool blanket. Dr. Elizabeth Coe, a tall Swiss woman with gentle gray eyes, sat across from me. "You look more peaceful today, Lena," she said. "I slept 6 hours last night," I said, offering a faint smile. "That hasn't happened in 3 years." Dr. Coe looked down at my chart. Stage 4, gastric adenocarcinoma, extensive peritoneal carcinomatosis, liver metastasis. Your procedure is approved for May 12th. Under Swiss law, you have fulfilled all criteria. Is there anyone you wish to contact?" "No," I answered immediately. "I have no family." "And your work." She gestured toward the music notebook resting on my lap. For the past week, I had been composing not with my ruined right hand, but by dictating to a voice recorder. I'm finishing a final piece entitled The Broken Crown. The central symphony featured a hollow melody shattered from the inside out, held together only by delicate counterpoint. "It's breathtaking," Dr. Coe murmured. "It's a eulogy," I whispered. Back in Chicago, Derek Vance stood in his luxury penthouse, staring at a process server who had just handed him a federal subpoena. On what grounds? Obstruction of justice, subornation of perjury, and felony conspiracy. Before Derek could reach for his phone, his front door was kicked open. Nathan stood in the doorway looking unhinged. His tie was loose, his hair wild, his eyes sunken and bloodshot. Derek gasped. What is going on? Nathan didn't speak. He walked across the hardwood floor and smashed his fist directly into Derek's face. Derek hit the floor with a heavy thud. You knew Nathan hissed, standing over him. You knew Isabel was driving the car that night. You altered the dashcam footage. You paid off the breathalyzer technician? I did it for us. Derek spat, struggling to sit up. Isabel was 19. She would have gone to prison for 10 years. Lena was older. She was quiet. We agreed. I agreed because you told me Lena confessed to you in private. Nathan screamed, grabbing Derek by his collar. You swore to me on your career that Lena was the one who drank the tequila. She would have taken the deal anyway, Derek yelled. She loved you, Nathan. She loved this family. She would have cut off her own head if you asked her to. Because she is dying. Nathan pulled his phone from his pocket and threw it onto Derek's chest. The screen displayed a global passenger record. Passenger name Wells Lena. Flight LX-017 JFK to ZRH Zurich, Switzerland. She went to Switzerland. Do you know what they do in Zurich? Derek stared at the screen. He recognized the medical travel codes instantly. Dignitas Pegasus Medical Protocol. Derek's eyes widened. No, she wouldn't. She vomited blood on my boots, Derek. Nathan said, a tear finally breaking past his lashes. She didn't forge those papers. Isabel forged the fake ones. Lena is dying. May 10th, 2 days before my scheduled procedure. I sat in the clinic's glass sunroom watching the afternoon sun cast golden reflections across Lake Zurich. My body was rapidly deteriorating. I could no longer swallow solid food. Intravenous fluids kept my mind clear, though my limbs felt as heavy as lead. For the first time in 3 years, I was not afraid. Then the heavy glass doors swung open. Nathan stood there. Behind him stood Derek. They looked hideous. Nathan had lost weight, his eyes hollowed out. Derek looked shattered, his hand trembling. They stopped 10 feet away from my chair. Nathan's voice was a cracked whisper. I didn't flinch. I simply turned my head and looked at them with quiet, unbothered eyes. You shouldn't have spent the money on flight tickets, I said softly. The clinic doesn't refund visitors. Nathan dropped to his knees right there on the polished marble floor. He dragged himself forward until his forehead touched the floor near my slippers. I'm sorry, Nathan sobbed, his chest heaving. I'm sorry, Lena. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know about your hand. I didn't know about Isabel's lies. I went to the prison. I saw the reports. I saw what they did to you. He lifted his face, tears streaming down his cheeks. Come home, Lena. Please. I brought the best oncologist from Johns Hopkins. We brought a private medical jet. We can get you to the best cancer center anywhere. Just come home. I looked down at his weeping face. 3 years ago, I would have given my life to hear him say those words. Now I felt nothing. Nathan, I said softly. He froze, looking up at me with frantic, desperate hope. Yes, Lena. I'm here. You're making a mess on the floor, I said. Nathan choked on a breath. His expression crumbled into utter horror. Lena, please don't look at me like that. Hate me. Hit me. Just don't look at me like I'm a stranger. You're not a stranger, Nathan, I replied, my voice as smooth and cold as lake ice. A stranger never pushed me into a prison cell. You're much worse than a stranger. You're my brother. Derek stepped forward, his hands shaking as he opened his briefcase. Lena, look at this, please. He pulled out a thick stack of legal documents. It's a full confession. I signed it this morning. I confess to perjury evidence tampering to framing you for the crash. Isabel has already been arrested. Your record is clean, Lena. You are completely exonerated. He fell to his knees beside Nathan. I destroyed my own career for this, Lena. I'm facing 15 years in federal prison. Please let us save your life. I looked at the documents. Exoneration. The word that had haunted my dreams for 3 long years. I leaned forward slightly. Do you know what they did to me on my first night in prison, Derek? I asked softly. Derek flinched. They stripped me naked in a room with 5 other women. They made me drink water out of the toilet bowl. When my hand was broken, I lay on a cold concrete floor for 14 hours without a single painkiller, listening to the guard tell me that my fiancé, you Derek, had specifically called to say I was throwing a tantrum. Derek let out a choked sob, covering his face with his hands. My name was already destroyed 3 years ago, I continued softly. Clearing it now doesn't rebuild my hand. It doesn't put my stomach back together. I picked up the legal confession with my left hand and held it over the small tabletop candle. The paper caught fire. I held the burning paper calmly until the flames nearly touched my fingers, then dropped the ashes into my teacup. I don't need your confession, I said. And I don't need your doctors. Lena, Nathan shrieked, reaching out frantically. But Dr. Coe stepped through the door, accompanied by 2 large Swiss security guards. Gentlemen, Dr. Coe said firmly. You are harassing my patient. You must leave immediately. No, Lena, look at me. Nathan fought against the guards as they grabbed his arms, pulling him back. Don't do this. Please, give me a chance to fix it. I turned my head away, looking back out toward the snow-capped mountains. Lena, Nathan's voice cracked into a desperate scream as he was dragged down the hallway. Lena, don't leave me in this world alone. The heavy glass doors slid shut. Silence returned. I took my pencil with my left hand and added one final stroke to the music in my notebook. A single, tiny melody growing out of the cracks of the shattered symphony. May 12th, 8 o'clock in the morning. The rain was falling softly over Lake Zurich. The room was filled with a soft, elegant sound of a Chopin nocturne. The scent of fresh white lilies filled the air. Dr. Coe sat beside my bed, holding my left hand gently in hers. Are you ready, Lena? She asked. I'm ready, I whispered. She handed me a small glass containing the lethal dose. I held it in my left hand. It felt light, almost weightless. I looked out the window one last time. The clouds were parting over the Alps, letting a single beam of golden morning light stream through the rain. I thought about the dark, terrifying road that had brought me here. And then I let them all go. I didn't carry hatred with me into that final minute. Hatred was too heavy, and I wanted to be light. I lifted the glass to my lips and drank it all. Thank you, Dr. Coe, I murmured, leaning my head back against the crisp white pillows. Sleep well, brave girl, she whispered, stroking my hair. Within 2 minutes, a warm, heavy drowsiness washed over my limbs. The pain in my stomach gradually diminished, fading into a cool, painless numbness. My breathing slowed. My eyes closed. The darkness that welcomed me was vast, soft, and infinitely peaceful. 6 months later, Chicago. The winter had arrived early. The trial of the state of Massachusetts versus Isabel Zane and Derek Vance had concluded. Derek Vance was sentenced to 12 years for conspiracy, perjury, and official misconduct. His law license was permanently revoked. Isabel Zane was convicted of vehicular manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and fraud. She received 8 years. Her psychological state rapidly deteriorated. She spent her days in the prison psychiatric wing screaming at the walls. Nathan was never charged with a crime. Legally, he was innocent. Conscience is a far more brutal executioner than the state. He resigned from the Chicago Daily. He liquidated all his assets and placed the money into an independent foundation named the Lena Wells Music Scholarship. He moved to Oregon. He bought a tiny, dilapidated cottage down the road from the cemetery. Every single morning, Nathan walked to the cemetery with a wooden stool and a small brush. He had bought back Plot 7 for 3 times its market value. He had erected a simple white marble headstone over the empty plot. It carried only 4 words carved deeply into the stone. Lena Wells, forgive you not. On a freezing December afternoon, Mrs. Patterson walked up the gravel path of the cemetery carrying a hot flask of tea. She stopped beside Plot 7, where Nathan was sitting on a stool, his hands raw from scrubbing snow off the white marble. He looked 50 years old, though he was barely 32. His hair was streaked with gray, his face gaunt, his eyes hollow, empty shells that held no light. "You should go inside, son," Mrs. Patterson said softly, offering him a cup of tea. "It's going to blizzard tonight." Nathan didn't look up. He kept gently wiping a speck of dust from the edge of the marble. "She used to sit right over there," Nathan whispered, his voice thin and dry. He pointed toward the small, rotting caretaker's booth. "She used to hold her right hand with her left because it hurt every time the cold set in. And I sat in a heated office complaining about the rain." Mrs. Patterson sighed quietly. "She's not hurting anymore, Nathan." "I know." Nathan whispered, tears freezing on his eyelashes. "That's what kills me every morning. The only way she could stop hurting was to get away from me." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside rested a single silver ring, a replica crafted from the music I had left behind. A shattered heart bound by microscopic gold wire. He laid the ring on top of the cold marble right above my name. The wind howled through the bare branches of the oak trees, whipping snow across the silent graveyard. Nathan sat down on the frozen earth, pressed his forehead against the icy stone, and stayed there into the gathering dark. Far away, high above the quiet white peaks of the Swiss Alps, the wind blew pristine snow across the endless blue sky. Clean, pure, and forever free.